The awakening first thing Commander Eli Reyes noticed wasn't the steady beeping of medical equipment or the sterile smell of the medbay. It was her Dot. She sat in the corner chair with impossible grace, her luminescent skin casting a soft blue-white glow that seemed to pulse with his heartbeat. Her eyes, like twin galaxies swirling with distant stars, watched him with an intensity that should have been unsettling, but instead felt ... protective. Her features were delicately alien high cheekbones that caught the light, elongated ears that tapered to gentle points, and hair that moved like liquid silver despite the absence of any breeze. Eli blinked hard, convinced his oxygen-starved brain was playing tricks on him. The last thing he remembered was the cargo hauler Meridian's Pride buckling under a micrometeor storm with the Proxima relay station. The whole breach had been catastrophic, and Lieutenant Marcus Webb had been screaming into the comm about massive decompression while Engineering Chief Zara Okafor fought to keep life support online. Commander Reyes. Dr. Jonah Verne's voice cut through his mental fog. The station's chief medical officer appeared at his bedside, scanning him with a neural probe. Welcome back to the land of the living. You've been in a medically induced coma for 3 weeks. Eli's eyes darted to the corner, but the ethereal woman remained, tilting her head with what might have been curiosity. Doctor, he croaked, his voice rusty from disuse. Who's the woman in the chair? Dr. Verne followed his gaze, frowning. What woman? Commander, you're the only person in this room besides myself. The woman, if that's what she was, didn't react to being discussed. Instead, she stood with fluid motion and moved closer to his bed. Eli could feel warmth radiating from her presence, like standing near a gentle fire on a cold night. His heart rate monitor began beeping faster. Easy there, Dr. Verne said, checking the readings. Your vitals are spiking. Are you experiencing any pain, disorientation? I'm fine, Eli lied, unable to tear his gaze away from the luminous being, who now stood close enough to touch. She raised one slender hand, palm facing him, and he felt an inexplicable sense of calm wash over him. The beeping slowed. Remarkable, Dr. Verne muttered, making notes on his tablet. Your neural patterns are stabilizing faster than I've ever seen. The nanobots we used to repair the brain trauma from oxygen deprivation seem to be working incredibly well. You should be experiencing significant cognitive impairment for weeks, yet your scans show enhanced neural activity. The woman smiled, the first expression Eli had seen cross her features, and it was like watching a sunrise on an alien world. Beautiful and utterly otherworldly. Doctor, what happened to my crew? Eli forced himself to focus on practical matters, though part of his attention remained fixed on his mysterious visitor. Lieutenant Webb and Chief Okafor are fine. They're actually here on the station, waiting for you to recover. The Meridian's Pride was a total loss, but the cargo pods were salvaged. You, however, ... double quotes. Dr. Verne's expression grew serious. You were clinically dead for 4 minutes before we got you stabilized. The fact that you're coherent at all is miraculous. 4 minutes. Eli filed that information away, sensing it was important somehow. The woman seemed to approve of his attention to detail, nodding almost imperceptibly. I'd like to run a few more tests, Dr. Verne continued, but preliminary scans suggest you'll make a full recovery. Though I am concerned about the hallucinations you mentioned. Hallucinations. Eli kept his voice neutral. The woman you asked about. Post-trauma psychosis isn't uncommon after what you've been through. We'll monitor it closely. The luminous being moved to stand directly beside Dr. Verne, studying the doctor with those galaxy-deep eyes. She reached out as if to touch his face, but her hand passed through him like mist. She pulled back, looking almost sad. I think I'd like to rest now, Eli said carefully. Of course. I'll have Webb and Okafor visit tomorrow when you're stronger. Dr. Verne headed for the door. Try to get some sleep, Commander. Your body needs time to heal. As soon as they were alone, the woman sat on the edge of his bed. This time, Eli felt the mattress dipped slightly under her weight. Definitely not a hallucination. Then, she studied his face for a long moment before placing her hand over his forehead. Her touch was cool and electric, sending pleasant tingles through his nervous system. For the first time in weeks, Eli Reyes slept without nightmares. Deeper connections over the next few days. Eli's recovery defied all medical explanation. Dr. Verne ran test after test, muttering about unprecedented neural regeneration and cellular repair rates that belonged in textbooks, not reality. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Webb and Chief Okafor visited daily, bringing updates from the cargo fleet and terrible jokes that actually made Eli laugh. But it was the nights that truly mattered. She appeared every evening as the station's artificial day cycle dimmed to simulate night. Sometimes she simply sat in her chair, radiating that comforting presence while Eli slept. Other times, she would move around the room, examining the medical equipment with obvious curiosity or gazing out the viewport at the star field beyond. "You're not from around here, are you?" Eli whispered one night, knowing Dr. Verne's rounds wouldn't bring him back 4 hours. She turned from the viewport, those stellar eyes focusing on him with startling intensity. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, like hearing a distant radio station gradually tune in, her voice whispered directly into his mind. "No, I am very far from home." Eli's heart hammered against his ribs. "You can talk, not speak, as you understand it. Our communication is different, more direct." Her mental voice carried undertones of melody, like hearing music played on instruments that didn't exist. "I was not certain you could hear me. What are you?" She moved to his bedside, her expression growing thoughtful. "My people exist between what you call dimensions. We perceive your reality, but cannot fully interact with it. Usually. When a consciousness hovers between life and death, as yours did, it becomes flexible, able to reach across the barriers that normally separate our realms." She hesitated, then continued. "You called out, in your dying moments, not with words, but with such desperate longing to live, to connect with something beyond the darkness closing in." I answered. Eli remembered those final moments aboard the Meridian's Pride, the cold vacuum pulling at him, his vision fading to black, and yes, a desperate mental scream for a help, for someone, anyone, to save him. "You saved my life," in a manner of speaking. But the connection we forged in that moment, it has consequences neither of us anticipated. What kind of consequences? Instead of answering directly, she placed her hand on his chest, over his heart. Immediately, his mind exploded with visions that weren't his own vast cities, that existed in spaces between atoms, beings of pure thought and energy dancing through cosmic winds, star maps of galaxies he'd never seen, but somehow recognized. "Jesus," he gasped, pulling back. "What was that?" "My memories. They bleed through our connection." She looked troubled. "Just as yours flow into me. I have experienced the taste of Terran coffee, the weight of your father's disapproval, the joy you felt when you first saw Earth's moon through a telescope at age 7. The intimacy of it should have been violating, but instead Eli felt, understood, known in a way no human had ever managed." "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Names, as you conceive them, do not exist among my people. We are known by our essence, our unique resonance in the dimensional fabric." She paused, seeming to consider. "But in your mind, you may call me Sirai. It is close to how my essence translates in your language." Sirai. The name felt right on his tongue. "Why can't anyone else see you?" "The connection that allows us to interact exists only between us. To others, I am invisible, incorporeal, a ghost." As you might say, her expression grew sad. "They believe you are suffering from trauma-induced hallucinations." Eli had noticed the concerned looks from Webb and Okafor, the way Dr. Verne asked carefully probing questions about his mental state. "Are you? Am I going crazy? Your sanity is intact." but our bond grows stronger each day. Serari's form seemed to flicker, becoming slightly more solid, more present. I am becoming more real in your dimension, while growing ever more distant from my own. Soon, my people will not be able to perceive me either. Is that ... bad for me? I do not know. I have never experienced physical sensation, linear time, the weight of gravity. Through our connection, I taste these things second-hand, and they are ... intoxicating. She looked at her own hands, as if seeing them for the first time. But if I continue to solidify in your reality, I can never return to mine. What about me? What happens to me in all this? That is what frightens me. Serari's mental voice carried deep uncertainty. I do not know if a human consciousness can survive the depth of connection we are developing. You may be forced to choose maintain your current existence, or cross fully into my realm. Eli stared at her. This impossible, beautiful being who had saved his life and now offered him, what? Transcendence, exile, death. How long do I have to decide? Not long, perhaps days. The boundary between our realities grows thinner with each passing moment. Outside the viewport, stars wheeled in their ancient dance, indifferent to the cosmic drama playing out in a simple medical bay. Eli Reyes, cargo hauler and practical man, had stumbled into something that defied everything he thought he knew about existence itself, and he was falling in love with it. Growing doubtster. Vern's concerned frown had become a permanent feature. Over the past week, he stood at the foot of Eli's bed, reviewing test results on his tablet, while Lieutenant Webb and Chief Okafor exchanged worried glances. Your physical recovery continues to exceed all expectations, Dr. Vern said carefully. Normal function is not just normal, it's enhanced. Reflexes, memory retention, pattern recognition all significantly above baseline. But Eli, I need to ask about your mental state. Serari stood behind the doctor, her luminous form more solid than ever. When she moved, Eli caught glimpses of her reflection in the medical equipment's polished surfaces, faint, but definitely there. The change was accelerating. I feel fine, Doc, Eli replied, forcing casualness into his voice. Better than fine, actually. That's part of what concerns me. Dr. Vern pulled up neural scans on his tablet. These readings suggest heightened activity in areas associated with sensory processing and memory formation, combined with your reports of enhanced dreams and visions. I'm worried about developing psychosis. Webb leaned forward, his weathered face creased with worrying. Boss, you've been talking to yourself. The nurses hear you having full conversations with someone who isn't there. Long conversations, Okafor added gently. Sometimes in languages that don't exist. Yesterday, Nurse Chen said you were speaking in what sounded like musical tones for 20 minutes straight. Eli's stomach clenched. He'd been so careful to only communicate with Serari when he was alone or thought he was alone. The dimensional barriers must be thinning faster than they'd realized. They care for you. Serari's mental voice carried warmth. Your distress causes them pain. I've been dreaming more vividly, Eli said aloud. Then caught himself. Speaking to Serari in front of others would only confirm their fears. The trauma, maybe. Sometimes the dreams feel more real than being awake. Dr. Vern made notes. Eli, I'm recommending a psychological evaluation. There are medications that can help with. No. The word came out harder than Eli intended. No medications. I told you, I feel fine, Commander, Webb said, using Eli's rank, something he rarely did in private. You've been my friend for 8 years. I know when something's wrong. Talk to us. Serari moved to stand beside Eli's bed, her expression pained. Perhaps you should listen to them. This path I've set you on. It may destroy everything you hold. Dear. The conflict tore at Eli's chest. His crew's friends were offering help from their reality. Serari was offering something beyond reality itself. Both paths seemed to require abandoning the other. What if I told you, Eli said slowly, that everything happening to me was real? That there was someone here, someone only I could see, who saved my life and is changing everything about how I understand existence. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Okafor was the first to speak. Then I'd say we need to get you help, boss. Real help, Webb nodded. Eli, hallucinations can feel completely real. The brain is incredibly good at creating false experiences that seem authentic. After what you've been through, 4 minutes, Eli interrupted. I was dead for 4 minutes. What if, in those 4 minutes, I touched something beyond our understanding? Dr. Vern's expression grew more concerned. Oxygen deprivation can cause lasting neurological effects, hallucinations, false memories, personality changes. This isn't brain damage. Eli's voice rose, causing his heart monitor to beat rapidly. This is contact with another form of consciousness, another way of existing. She's teaching me things I never knew, showing me star maps of galaxies we haven't discovered, helping me understand mathematics that doesn't exist in our textbooks. The three men exchanged a kind of look that Eli recognized from his childhood. Adults deciding how to handle a delusional child. Stop. Sarari's mental voice was urgent. You are frightening them. They will restrain you, medicate you, try to sever our connection. But Eli was beyond caring. Frustration and isolation boiled over. Her name is Sirai. She exists between dimensions, and she's becoming more solid in our reality every day. Soon you'll be able to see her too. And then you'll understand that I'm not crazy. Webb stood up. Abruptly. Doc, I think we need that psychological evaluation sooner rather than later. Agreed. Dr. Vern was already entering commands into his tablet. I'm scheduling an emergency psychiatric consultation and recommending mild sedation until. Don't you dare. Eli tried to sit up, but restraints he hadn't noticed before held him to the bed. When had they? You can't drug me. You don't understand what you're interfering with. Sarari's form flickered with distress. They activated containment protocols while you were focused on our conversation. I should have warned you, but I was enjoying the sensation of your emotions too much to pay attention. Commander Reyes. Dr. Vern's voice took on the calm, patronizing tone reserved for agitated patients. I'm going to administer a mild anxiolytic to help you calm down. Once you're stable, Dr. Patricia Hendricks will conduct a full psychological evaluation. A nurse, when had she entered, approached with a hypo spray. Eli struggled against the restraints, panic flooding his system. Sirai. He called out desperately, do something. I cannot. Her mental voice was filled with anguish. I have no power in your physical realm beyond what our connection provides. If they sever that connection with drugs. The hypo spray hissed against his neck. Almost immediately, Eli felt his thoughts growing sluggish, his enhanced perceptions dimming. Sarari's form began to fade, becoming translucent once more. Find me. Her voice was growing distant. When the chemicals leave your system, call out as you did when you were dying. I will answer, if I can. Don't leave me. Eli whispered, but she was already gone. The last thing he saw before the sedative pulled him under was Webb's concerned face, and the empty chair where Sarari had first appeared. For the first time since awakening from his coma, Commander Eli Reyes was truly alone. And it felt like dying all over again. The choice Eli swam up from drugged unconsciousness, like a deep-sea diver ascending to quickly disoriented, pressure building behind his eyes, lungs burning for air that tasted wrong. The medical bay's sterile lighting seemed harsher, the steady beep of monitors more insistent. Everything felt muted, dampened, like experiencing life through thick glass. Dr. Patricia Hendricks sat in Sarari's chair. She was a severe woman with graying hair pulled back in a tight bun, her pale blue eyes sharp with clinical assessment. A tablet rested in her lap, stylus poised to record his every word, gesture, and expression for later analysis. Good morning, Commander Reyes. I'm Dr. Hendricks, the station's psychiatric specialist. How are you feeling? Like someone stuffed cotton. In my brain, Eli said honestly. The words felt thick in his mouth, thoughts moving like honey in winter. How long was I out? 18 hours. The sedative was necessary to allow your neural chemistry to stabilize. She made a note. Dr. Verne briefed me on your case. Fascinating reading. Eli struggled to sit up, noting that the restraints had been removed but replaced with neural dampeners, small devices attached to his temples that would suppress enhanced brain activity. Where is she? Where is who? Commander Sirai. The woman who's been. He stopped, recognizing the trap. Every word would be analyzed, categorized, used to build a case for his insanity. Dr. Hendricks leaned forward slightly. The woman only you can see. Tell me about her. Why? So you can add it to my file as proof I'm delusional. So I can help you understand what you're experiencing. Her voice carried professional sympathy. Commander, what you're describing are classic symptoms of post-trauma psychosis combined with temporal lobe epilepsy as side effect of the oxygen deprivation you suffered. The brain creates vivid, persistent hallucinations that feel completely real. She's real. To you, yes, that's what makes this condition so challenging. The hallucination integrates seamlessly with normal perception. Patients often develop elaborate backstories, emotional connections, even romantic attachments to these false constructs. Romantic attachments. The words hit harder than they should have. Was that what was happening? Was his growing connection to Sirari just his damaged brain creating an idealized fantasy to cope with trauma? I can prove she's real, Eli said, grasping for certainty. The star maps she showed me, the mathematical concepts, all drawn from your subconscious knowledge as a deep space navigator, reorganized and presented back to you in a way that seems novel. Dr. Hendricks's stylus moved across her tablet. The brain is remarkably creative when constructing hallucinations. Doubt crept in like ice water in his veins. Everything Dr. Hendricks said made perfect sense. More sense than interdimensional beings and impossible connections forged in the moment, between life and death. Commander, I've reviewed your service record. 14 years of exemplary deep space cargo runs. No history of mental illness, substance abuse, or psychological instability. You're a rational, practical man. What seems more likely that you've made contact with aliens from another dimension, or that your brain is healing from severe trauma in the only way it knows how. The neural dampeners hummed softly against his temples, suppressing the enhanced clarity that had become his new normal. In its absence, the world felt smaller, duller, more ordinary. The medications Dr. Verne wants to prescribe will help. Dr. Hendricks continued. Modern antipsychotics are highly effective with minimal side effects. You can return to your life, your career, your friends. All you have to do is accept that what you've been experiencing isn't real. Eli closed his eyes, trying to reach out with his mind the way he had during those first nights with Sirai. Are you there? He thought desperately. Are you real? Silence. Nothing but the soft hiss of the room's air recyclers and the distant hum of the station's engines. I know this is difficult, Dr. Hendricks said gently. The hallucination has provided comfort, companionship, even love. Letting go feels like losing someone important. But Commander, she was never there. A soft knock interrupted them. Webb peered around the door frame. Doc, mind if I have a word with Eli? Dr. Hendricks checked her tablet. 5 minutes. I'll be right outside. Webb waited until she left, then sat heavily in the chair she'd vacated. His weathered face showed the strain of the past few days. How you doing, boss? Been better. Eli studied his friend's expression. Come to talk sense into me too. Came to tell you that Okafor and I are shipping out tomorrow. New cargo run to the Kepler colonies. Fleet's offering you extended medical leave, full pay, until you're ready to come back. Generous of them. They don't want to lose a good commander over something that wasn't your fault. Webb leaned forward. Eli, I've seen men crack under the pressure of deep space. It happens, no shame in it. But they get help, they recover, and they come back stronger. What if I told you I don't want to recover? What if what's happening to me is better than what I was before? Webb was quiet for a long moment. Then I'd say you're not the man I've served with for 8 years. That Eli Reyes was grounded, practical, someone who faced reality head-on. This. Whoever you're becoming ... he's lost in fantasies. The words stung because they carry truth. The old Eli would have accepted the medical explanation, taken the medications, gotten on with his life. But the old Eli had never experienced the profound connection he'd shared with Sirari, never touched the edges of something vast and incomprehensible. Maybe some fantasies are worth getting lost in, Eli said quietly. Webb stood, disappointment clear in his expression. Take the meds, boss. Come back to us. We need you. After he left, Eli lay in the gathering artificial twilight, neural dampeners humming against his skull. For the first time since awakening from his coma, he felt truly human, limited, ordinary, trapped in a single dimension of existence, and he hated it. Sirari, he called out with every fiber of his being. If you're real, if any of this was real, help me. Show me the truth. The room remained empty, silent except for the mechanical sounds of life support. But as the station's day cycle dimmed toward night, Eli could have sworn he saw a faint shimmer in the corner of his vision, like starlight reflecting off invisible water. Tomorrow, he would have to choose, accept the safe, rational explanation and return to his old life, or trust in something impossible and risk losing everything he'd ever known. The shimmer grew stronger. Transcendentith neural dampeners deactivated. 300 hours. Eli had been pretending to sleep, timing the automated medical cycles that monitored his vital signs. The device is powered down for routine maintenance every night at this hour, a 47-minute window when his enhanced consciousness could function unimpeded. The moment the dampeners went silent, the world exploded back into brilliant clarity. Colors deepened, sounds took on harmonic complexity, and the electromagnetic signatures of the station's systems painted patterns across his enhanced perception. But most importantly, he could feel her presence returning like dawn breaking over a distant horizon. Sirari materialized slowly, her form more solid than ever before. She sat in her familiar chair, but something was different. The ethereal glow that had always surrounded her was dimming, being replaced by increasingly human-like substance. She looked ... tired. You called, and I answered. Her mental voice carried undertones of strain. But I am running out of time. The dampener suppressed our connection. Eli whispered, careful not to trigger the room's audio monitors. I couldn't reach you. I felt you trying. Your desperation pulled me back from the edge of dissolution. She stood and moved to his bedside, her footsteps now making soft sounds against the floor. But maintaining this form in your reality is consuming what remains of my essence. Soon, I will either fade entirely or become completely corporeal, cut off forever from my people and my home. What happens if you become fully corporeal? I do not know. No member of my species has ever crossed the dimensional barrier completely. I would be trapped in your physical realm, subject to linear time, gravity, eventual death, everything my people transcended eons ago. Eli studied her face, seeing new details that hadn't been there before, tiny imperfections that made her more real, more human, a small scar along her jawline, laugh lines around those stellar eyes. The weight of physical existence was already marking her. And you, she continued, the connection that allows us to communicate, to share memories and sensations, it requires part of your consciousness to exist partially in my realm. If you stay here, taking their medications, accepting their rational explanations, that part of you will eventually be severed. You will return to normal human limitations, but alive, sane, surrounded by people who care about me. Yes, her mental voice was soft, sad. It would be the wise choice. Eli reached out and took her hand. It was solid now, Warm, completely real. She startled at the contact, her eyes widening. "I can touch you," she whispered aloud, her voice carrying the same musical undertones as her mental communication, but rendered in physical sound waves. Aya spoke, with vocal cords and breath, and ... She laughed, a sound like wind chimes, in a gentle breeze. "This is extraordinary. You're becoming human, and you are becoming something else entirely." She squeezed his hand, marveling at the sensation. "Through our connection, I have experienced your memories of earth-green growing things, rainfall, the warmth of sunlight on skin. Part of me yearns to experience these things directly, to live a linear existence bounded by birth and death, but filled with sensory wonder.